All right, just kicked off the recording. Hey, everybody, welcome to the biweekly SIG Docs in-person meeting. I know we're kind of getting our meetings in order here, so I appreciate everyone bearing with us. I'm Jim Angel, one of your co-chairs for SIG Docs. Today is September 7th. It is 10:30 Pacific, and let's get rolling. First of all, are there any new contributors or anyone who wants to introduce themselves in person? Feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'll go ahead. My name is Natalie Blatko. I'm someone new contributor on the SIG Docs team, but I've been working with SIG Auth for a little while in terms of kind of PR and issue triage with them and general meeting stuff. And I am really looking forward to doing a lot more contributing. So hello.
Hello.
I can go next. Hey everyone, I'm Arsh. I'm also new to contributing to SIG Docs. I have been actively contributing with SIG architecture, where I'm maintaining a project to manage dependencies for Kubernetes. And I'm looking forward to like 2 more contributions to SIG Docs. Thank you.
Welcome. Anybody else? All right. Well, if anyone wants to say hey in chat or introduce themselves later, feel free to do so. Otherwise, anyone can find us on Slack and you'll get a ton of help there as well. So moving on to this week's updates and reminders. This week's PR Wrangler is not currently scheduled. I don't know if we have any volunteers here that are willing to step up for this week, or if not, we can all pitch in. Jim, is it a volunteer?
I missed my last shift due to being on vacation, Jim. So I will step in. Anyone else want to help?
I am already okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead. What was that?
I was saying that I was already shadowing Karen, but I can also help with this week if that's something.
Cracking. Yeah. There's loads of reviewing that you can do to help, and you can ask for advice on Slack if you're not sure how that's going.
Sure, I'll reach out to you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And next week's PR Wrangler is myself, and I believe Ray is going to shadow me as well there. And just for some context for folks that might not have been keeping up with Slack, is there's actively a co-chair mentoring group that has been established where folks are basically being on-ramped into what is co-chair involved, some of the other leadership roles in SIG Docs. And so we have folks that are popping in and out, trying to shadow PR Wranglers, getting to know more about the administrative work for SIG Docs, as well as some of the more advanced contributing. So as you see new friends and faces around, feel free to not be a stranger, say hello to these folks, reach out. And if you are one of the folks that is going through the mentoring program, feel free to reach out and engage with the other folks as well. So it's a two-way street and a lot of friendly folks, and really excited to see this happening. All right, moving on to the agenda for release 123. Do we have someone willing to take that one? We got Jesse on the call.
Yeah.
Sorry. Hi. Yes, I was actually just trying to find the agenda. Hello.
Hey, no worries.
Where did it go? I have so many things open. So yeah, the enhancements freeze starts as you have in the agenda. We're tracking 67 now. Enhancements. I'm going through the tracking sheet and trying to update the scripting so it's a little more accurate, but it looks like right now 51 are needing docs. And yeah, we have the first doc related milestone, as you indicate here, is the placeholder for the docs PRs, which is November 18th. It's a little, I wouldn't say it's tighter than usual, but it felt tight to me, this being my first rodeo, where we have the docs placeholder PR, which is the 18th, and then ready to review is the 23rd. So hopefully we're going to be able to shepherd a lot of those in well ahead of the deadline. And I'll be very communicative on SIG Docs and the Slack and with the folks that are typically doing this work. So yep, any questions or?
Just add a few more comments that the release towards the end of the year is always very hard with KubeCon and holidays. So we're always going to have this issue with milestones. So I'm going to place also additional milestones as well in the agenda, not just docs ready one or docs related milestones, but like enhancements freezes this Thursday, code freeze is November 16th. The docs placeholder PR deadline is November 18th. We found that having this docs placeholder PR after code freeze, we've gotten much better traction in creating for enhancement owners to create placeholder PRs. But then that also leaves that we don't have much time for docs ready for review at docs, which is November 23, which is the week of US holiday for US Thanksgiving, or then docs ready is the week after, November 30th, because the week after that is the release date. So it becomes very, very tight at the end. So like always, we will always do our best to make sure that enhancement owners are get their docs PRs up and ready as soon as they can. So any comments or questions?
Is there anything that we can do as far as a KubeCon Contributor Summit presentation to help out the release? I know historically we haven't done much to help shepherd the release, and I just kind of was thinking of that idea now as we're cramming everything in and folks are visiting for KubeCon.
That's a good question. I'm sure there is. If I could think of something, I'll let you know. Yeah, I think that's great. I think what we should do is definitely do a push to. I know we have the docs placeholder PR after KubeCon, but we should start to start communicating to get those open the week after KubeCon or after KubeCon.
Just also wanted to let folks know that it's unlikely that folks from Europe are going to be there at KubeCon, given that they're not letting us in the country yet. So there may be some help on the ground in this continent to be able to help out during that week, likely.
Nice. No, it's good to know. And unfortunate circumstances, but makes sense, and happy to have the help. Cool. Any other questions or comments on the release? All right, moving on to issues and PRs. PR number 29385. I didn't add this. Somebody here who added this wanted to speak to it. This was previously from a previous meeting. I copied it from the agenda, so it's possible who submitted it is no longer here, but anyone open to talk about this? And not hearing a ton of much.
I will say some stuff that just for the sort of the record and people who are catching up late.
Cool.
I know Chiming Tang had some feedback about the amount of refactoring that happens to English pages, and then every time we improve an English page in sort of this way, it triggers, n lots of work for localization teams. So I suspect it was the feedback was along that lines that is the value of this kind of refactoring something that outweighs the effort that it causes for teams that have already localized a page, updating their version? I'm not sure I can help move that discussion on, but I think that's what it was about. And that's all I've got to say right at the moment there.
Gotcha. And I appreciate the context there. And that does bring a refresher from when we had the APEC meeting. Chiming did bring this up. Basically, just to what you said, Tim, having a large refactor in the English content trickles downstream into the localization efforts, causing a whole ton of work that was necessarily unplanned. And figuring out how we can raise the communication visibility up a little bit more. This seems like something that we should talk largely with the localization teams. We have the meeting the first Monday of the month, which just the one previous to yesterday was canceled due to the US holiday. So the next one won't actually happen until October 4th, it looks like. But I do feel like this is something that we should decide with or in tandem with the localization teams to figure out what's going to be the best way forward. At the very least, it seems like over communication would be the answer here, as far as messaging multiple localization SIGs or the different groups, not necessarily SIGs, but the different groups on Slack, especially when we're talking about refactoring these, major contents or major chunks of the page. But beyond that, I'm not sure how we can coordinate other than increasing and encouraging conversation.
Ash, you've got your hand up.
I wanted to ask, like, currently, is there a like notification sent out to the localization teams, or is that not the thing right now, and we want that to happen?
Yeah, so currently there's somewhat of a poor mechanism to be totally transparent with y'all on as far as localization goes. Each localization teams has their own various sets of scripts and tooling to actually validate what is the difference between what's currently in main versus what's in their branch. And then they tackle the localization work based on the differential between the two previous branches and try to bring them up to feature parity. And so this is where a PR like this would be a challenge because it's such a major change that could potentially impact future minor changes or even previous minor changes that have already been done on said pages. Because not only are you then making the actual layout changes, you're also making the content changes, localizing that, translating that. And it can get a little messy in the terms of the steps that are taken to actually localize there. But there isn't a great story today. And I would argue that the communication is poor, if non-existent, for like incoming changes. I think these changes hit and then the impact is felt by the localization teams. And that's something worth changing.
So should we like log an issue in the website repo to improve the tooling maybe, so that like it does not like just skip the conversation and we can track it, the issue there?
Yeah, I don't believe there's an issue open for this in particularly. Yeah, if that's something you would be willing to do is open up an issue, I think it'd be good to at least have a centralized point for tracking. I don't necessarily think it's gonna be solved in an issue, but we can have a central location to facilitate conversation.
Sure, I'll do that.
Cool. Any other questions or comments around this PR?
So I probably won't make the meeting when this comes up. So I hope if anyone's here is there, they could bring up a suggestion on that I'm going to make now. Sort of theory of constraints. We could place a limit on the number of these that we make in a week or in a cycle. So we might say, okay, during one Kubernetes release, we will have at most N. I don't have a number, but N big page refactors. And that if we plan to go over that, we recognize that actually downstream doesn't have capacity for this, so there isn't a point. And people who do sort of factory optimizations and various different kinds of overall value chain analysis might recognize that it is the theory of constraints, or it is taken from the theory of constraints as to why you might do that.
Yeah, so let me just reiterate to make sure I understand correctly. You're just saying announce the X number of changes prior to the release actually occurring. So it's kind of like an impending major change for, let's say we're in 123 right now. You could say in 124, we're going to have a major release.
What we might say is that for the cycle to 1.24, we're on the next cycle is 1.23. Yeah, so we release 1.23, and then between then and 1.24 being released, we might say that we will have only 200 big page refactors. And so we might do that by PR size, we might do that by some other identification. And that once we have reached that quota, we will stop. We will pull the cord and stop the production line, because we know that the localization teams couldn't pick things up when we push them to the next bit of the factory. Maybe I should try and make that meeting.
Yeah,
I'll see if I can.
I think it would help out. I do like the idea of some sort of compromise or hybrid solution here where big changes are at least tracked. So if somebody does open up an extra large PR and has major changes, we could potentially put a hold on it until a future release and say, hey, look, this is great stuff, but given the impact that's going to have to downstream localizations, let's track it where, it won't become actually merged until the following release or something similar. I know it's not exactly what you're saying, Tim, but a way to kind of time box that in a more defined manner, I guess.
Yep. Something for the next meeting, something for the actual discussion.
Cool. Let me just make a note here. Awesome. Any other questions, comments, issues, or PRs that folks would like to talk about? All right, moving on to the last bit here for discussion. So I'm going to send out an email to SIG Docs a little bit later on today announcing that I'm going to nominate Divya Mohan as a co-chair. Divya has been around SIG Docs for quite some time now, has also participated in a mentorship cohort similar to what we're doing for SIG Docs now. Divya is currently in the program for the co-chairs, the mentorship, I guess, if you will, but I believe has the strength to really help out SIG Docs and hit the ground running pretty much ASAP. So I'm going to recommend that Divya is nominated to become co-chair. The process will be that it goes out to SIG Docs for review. Folks can +1 and talk about how awesome Divya is if they would like. And then after a certain period of nomination, I believe it's 1 week, this then emails will go out to Kubernetes dev, the major or the wider developer release email. And with a week, I believe after that, then we'll open up the PRs, or Divya will open up the PRs to become a co-chair, and we'll move forward with that, assuming there's no major objections. Any questions or comments on that release process? I shouldn't say release process, on co-chair nomination process.
I'll just say I have an early thumbs up for that. That's great.
Awesome. Much appreciated. Yeah, really just being transparent with y'all. We're looking to write the ship on SIG Docs here, get a lot of folks into the co-chair area, as well as more approvers, and really just beef up around contributor, I guess, quality of life, if you will. So we're on track right now, and we have a great team that we're working with. And if I can help anyone else, if they're wondering how do you become a reviewer, approver, co-chair, reach out to me. I'm happy to help out. I don't think it's always been that clear in SIG Docs as far as like a path to become anything, and so I can understand how it'd be very not so clear to certain folks. So happy to help, happy to reach out, and like I said, we're definitely around and in progress of correcting the ship, if I can use a ship pun. Cool. That's all I got. Anything else folks want to bring up for discussion? All right. Well, that's a SIG meeting. You have a great rest of your week. Thank you very much.
Bye.